I really hope this is in focus. Who's texting me? Why am I zoomed in? Can I just have this? There we go. Okay. Let me not interfere with that at all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my first ever knitting podcast. I am so excited to be making this. So I'm probably gonna just talk incessantly and have to really edit it down. But that's okay. We persist. I talk all the time about my knitting to my friends and family, and I think at this point they're getting a little sick of it. So I was like, let me find an audience that actually wants to hear me talk about these things, such as people who would click onto a knitting podcast. Welcome, here you are. Feel free to put this in 2x or whatever your preferred speed is, and settle in, grab a snack, grab a hot drink. I have my water bottle in case my throat gets a little scratchy, and also because I realized I actually have not consumed any water today and it is almost 3 p.m. So I'm gonna just, I guess, structure this the normal way that knitting podcasts are structured. I'm gonna talk about my finished objects and then my whips and then my acquisitions, but obviously it's a little different because there's not like a previous knitting podcast where I can just show you like all the things I finished since then. So I'm just gonna show you a selection of 3 of my latest whips. Just the 3 things I finished most recently. But I will start by telling you about what I'm wearing, which is my Billy pullover. This pattern is by Sorry Nordland, and it's just this beautiful classic cabled raglan. I wear this all the time. I finished it, I believe, last January, so January 2025. And I've just been wearing it constantly anytime the weather is appropriate, and I get tons of compliments on it. People sometimes think I'm lying when I tell them I made it. Which is so funny because to me it looks so obviously handmade because like I am very aware of all the mistakes, but other people don't notice them. This was my first time doing an all over cable pattern like this, and I actually really since then have not done anything like this. So I need to get back into my cable game. I knit this in Barocco vintage, the like worsted weight, which I think is like the original Barocco vintage. And I think this color is called Rye. This yarn does have a good percentage of acrylic in it, which I know some people are not a fan of, but I will say, I really enjoyed the knitting experience. It wasn't squeaky or like, it didn't have an acrylic-y feel. It does feel pretty woolly, not like a rustic wool, but it feels like wool, basically. It doesn't feel like an acrylic yarn when you're knitting it, and it doesn't feel like an acrylic yarn on. I frequently wear this directly next to skin. Very comfortable to wear next to skin, keeps me warm. All in all, no complaints about the yarn, very affordable. I don't know how visible it is on camera. There's not pilling, but there is a little bit of shedding in some of the places, which I think makes sense given how much I wear this. And I haven't given this any kind of deep hill since I made it. I've also seen in Ravelry comments and projects, a lot of people have said that the armholes on this sweater are uncomfortably small for them. And I think that might just be Sorry Nordland's own proportions, because I find that the armholes fit me perfectly, and I think I have similar proportions as her. So I knit the size that was recommended for my bust measurement, which I think was the size L, and I knit it exactly to the pattern specifications and everything like that, and it fits beautifully. I think it has just the right amount of positive ease. I also saw some Ravelry projects of people saying that they found the seed stitch, is this seed stitch? No, moss stitch panels confusing. And when they were doing the increases, they weren't sure where to put purls and where to put knits. I didn't find it confusing at all. Granted, I don't know if the directions for certain sizes are more confusing. I know that happens sometimes, but the size I knit, no problems at all. I did all of the Italian bind offs on the cuffs and the hem as well. And that turned out beautifully. It's a little bit less neat around the hem. I find that when I have a really long Italian bind off to do, it just doesn't look as nice, but it looks so clean around the cuffs, which I really appreciate. The only thing with this that I would maybe change, other than not making all the mistakes I made, for example, one of these cables is going the wrong way. I actually think the cable that's going the wrong way is on the back. But the one thing I would change is I would maybe modify the collar a little bit, because this is a double folded collar in 1x1 rib, and it's really comfortable, but I think the way that it's like folded down and sewn down is not the neatest, and I don't know what would be a better way to do it. You knit the collar at the end, and I think it would maybe look a little bit neater if the collar was worked first and then you knit the body in continuation of that. I'm not a pattern designer, so I don't know why. I don't know if that's just Starry Nordland's preference to knit it at the end or anything like that. But all in all, I'm very happy with the sweater. I wear it a lot. Anyway, I feel like I must have talked for about 10 minutes just about this one sweater that I'm currently wearing. That's not even one of the things I was planning on talking about. So let's get into the finished objects. And I guess we'll do this in chronological order. So this is my obsidian slipover. This is a pattern by Sophia Scott Ford. And it is this gorgeous, gorgeous little vest with this mohair bow at the front. I knit this in Knit Picks palette in the shade Pennyroyal, held with Ching Fibers Veranita in the shade Pufferfish. And I love this combination. I think it makes the most beautiful color with these little flecks. And the Veranita is so incredibly soft. It's a cashmere and silk blend. It's just so, so luscious and beautiful. My sister got it for me for my birthday. Thank you, Audrey. And then the palette is obviously just Knit Picks, like fingering weight, 100%. I think it's Peruvian Highland wool. So it's not as like soft and luscious, but after blocking, I will say this created a very, very soft, comfortable fabric. The two of them together, and I really like the weight of it as well. It's like a DK-ish weight. I think this is knit on 3.5 millimeter needles. And then the bow at the front is just the, it would normally be mohair held double, but in this case, because I used the Veranita instead of a mohair, it's the Veranita held double. I think this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever made. It just is so gorgeous. The finishing is so neat and professional. The armholes are done in double knit, as is the neck and the little V here. And then the bottom is a folded over stockinette hem. So you just size down your needles and then you knit twice as long and you fold it over. And I just think it gives the whole thing such a beautiful finish. I think that this pattern is really thoughtfully designed. It also has these little pearl ridges on the shoulders, which I think are also really beautiful. The fit of this, okay, again, this is a situation where I think I just have weird proportions, because I often find that armholes are too big for me. And then when I knit this, everyone was saying the armholes are too small, but they fit me perfectly. So I think it's just like, because of the, like where my shoulders are located in relation to like my bust is like, they're closer together than most people, if that makes sense. Because I find that when I knit vests, the armholes are always big on me. And maybe it's a gauge issue, maybe my row, I don't really pay attention to row gauge. But when I do check my row gauge, it's usually accurate, so I don't know. But that is, yeah, my one gripe about this is the armholes are a little big, so I do have to wear like a t-shirt or a tank top under this. Given the fabric this is made of, it's not like a warm weather piece, right? So it makes sense that I'd be wearing something under it, whether that's like a t-shirt or like a long sleeve turtleneck or something like that. But I would like to have the option of wearing this with just a bra underneath. And when I do that, you can see the side of my bra. So, you know, whatever. It's not anything wrong with the pattern. This isn't an issue I saw anyone else having, and the type of garment it is kind of meant to be worn over something anyway. So like I get it. And overall still very happy with this. I think it's a really beautifully designed pattern. But that's just something I wanted to point out. I haven't worn this too many times yet, just because this is not an everyday type of piece for me. I wore this when I presented a research poster a few weeks ago, and I felt really special doing that in a hand knit. This can definitely be like a business casual type of vibe, which I appreciate. The yarn itself, even though again, I haven't worn it that many times, so I can't really speak to this too much, the yarn has held up pretty well. It blocked out really beautifully. You know, when you knit with two separate strands in different colors, there's always like a bit of an unknown of like, how will these look together? Because I didn't want it to be too different in color, but I wanted there to be a little bit of depth and dimension added, because I got the ching fibers first, and then I was looking for a fingering weight wool to hold with it, and I really think that these just go together so beautifully. Like, my favorite part about this truly is the color. It's this like really beautiful light lavendery purple with these little flecks throughout, and it truly is so soft, like so soft. So it was such a treat to get to knit with such a luxurious yarn like the Veranita. It's not the kind of thing that I would normally buy for myself, so I'm very grateful that I got the chance to use it, and I am thrilled to have this in my wardrobe. It is just such a beautiful piece that I'm so proud of myself for making. All right, my next finished object, going in chronological order of when I finished, is my Elisabeth blouse. Hang on, let me fold the collar down so you guys can see it properly. This is a pattern by Petite Knit. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this. I feel like it's quite popular, as are most of Petite Knit's patterns. I knit this in Knitting for Olive merino and soft silk mohair, held together, both in the shade Dusty Violet. I love this color. I think it's so beautiful. Purple is my favorite color, which will become apparent to y'all once you see my my whips. But yeah, purple is my very favorite color, and Knitting for Olive does not have a huge selection of purples, which is always a little disappointing to me because they have so many like beautiful blues and greens and beautiful neutrals, but they have like 3 purples, and I'm like, guys, what about me? I really love this. I really have been on like a good streak with my finished objects recently. I've really been liking the things that I'm finishing, which is always nice, because, you know, it's a lot of work. This in particular took me a good amount of time. I think pretty much a full month to knit this, which is a little bit slow for me. This did take me a little bit longer. It's a pretty fine gauge. I think technically Ravelry lists it as DK, but I think is really closer to like a sport weight. But I'm so pleased with the result. Of course, Petite Knit pattern, easy to follow, straightforward. I knit the size large, which is what I usually knit in Petite Knit patterns. If I go by her sizing chart, I'm technically an XL, but that gives me, for most things, a little bit too much positive ease, and I'm like right between the two, so I usually size down. I probably could have knit a medium in this for like a more like sleek fit, if that makes sense. This is a little bit more relaxed. I do kind of want to make another one of these, so I might try making it in a medium next time, just to see what the fit of that is like. But overall, very satisfied with this. It's just this, it's basically just a basic raglan with this fun collar. And then this portion at the front is double knit. I was so intimidated by this pattern because, first of all, she ranks it as a 5 out of 5 difficulty, which I would tend to agree with. I think if you are not a pretty confident knitter, this is an intimidating pattern. But this was actually one of the patterns that I saw it, and it's what made me want to learn how to knit, because I knew how to crochet before, but this pattern, I saw it and I was like, I need to learn how to knit because I need to make that. So it feels like a big accomplishment that I have made it now. And I'm just so happy to have it in my wardrobe. In terms of construction, like I said, it's a pretty normal raglan construction, just with some like modifications for the collar situation. So you knit this big folded portion first, and this is actually 2 layers of stockinette. You do like a Judy's Magic cast on, I think, at this top edge, and then you knit outward on both sides, if that makes sense, and it's joined at this edge. And then you knit the yoke almost like you would knit a V-neck cardigan, basically. So it's a raglan, but you knit back and forth rather than in the round. And then you add the little double knit V here. And then once you join this, it becomes like a more typical in the round raglan construction. Once you get past the collar, it's a pretty standard sweater, which I will say I got a little bored because while I was like working on the collar portion, I was like, oh, I'm just like, it's exciting to see it taking shape. But then once I got to the more basic like sweater portion, I was like, okay, this is not that exciting because like I've knit a raglan sweater before and like I know what it's gonna look like. But regardless, I was motivated by wanting the finished product, and I'm very excited to have it now. I love this yarn combination. I feel like I don't need to tell y'all about that because it's what I feel like everyone and their mother uses, the Knitting for All of Merino and Soft Silk Mohair. It's very comfortable. I can wear this next to the skin. It does feel like mohair. Like it, you know, you can tell that it's mohair. It does have that, I don't know how to describe it. Like it's not an itchiness, but like you can feel that it's mohair, but I don't find it irritating at all. All right, and then my third finished object that I'm gonna show you, my third and final, which I literally just cast off like half an hour ago, are the penny gloves by Petite Knit. So it may look like it. These are not the same yarn. They're not. I knit these in some leftover yarn that I had from a previous project. This is the Walcott Yarns X Les Garçons Fluff, which is a very lovely fluffy yarn. It's got a bunch of stuff in it. It's like alpaca, yak, merino. I don't know, guys. I lost the label, but I bought 2 hanks of this a couple years ago at a fiber festival, not knowing what I wanted to make with it, and I ended up making a little hood thing, and then I had like quite a bit left. I had almost a full hank left, and I just had that laying around, so I decided I'd make some penny gloves. These are just a very basic fingerless glove. This is my first time actually knitting something on a small circumference like this. Obviously I've knit like sleeves on a small circumference, but the first time I've knit like a little accessory like this where it's all on a small circumference. And I know people have their preferred methods for small circumference knitting, and you know, sock knitting and stuff like this, but I just used some 9-inch circulars, which I now don't know where they have gone. Anyway, I used 9-inch circulars, and those worked fine. The only annoying part is then when I got to the thumb, it's an even smaller circumference, so I had to basically do magic loop with the 9-inch circulars. Now, why didn't you just do magic loop with a pair of long needles? I don't know, you guys. I don't know. Because I like to make myself suffer. And I'm happy to have these. I don't really have any gloves. which is crazy because I literally grew up in Iowa. Like, you'd think I would know that you need gloves in the winter, but I just didn't have any, but now I do. And they're fingerless, so, you know, you can still use your phone and everything. And I think these are really nice. They do go up quite high, and I knit these like exactly according to the pattern, like all the dimensions she gives and everything. They do come up quite high on your arms. Like this comes to like halfway at least up my forearm, which is very nice because then it goes like under my sweater sleeve and can, you know, there isn't like wind blowing up into my sleeve, if you guys have ever had that happen to you before. However, if I were wearing a sweater with really narrow sleeves, I think that would be difficult because, like, I guess I could put these on the outside of the sweater, but they're kind of tight fitting, so I don't know how that would work. So if I have some other scrap yarn laying around that I think would be good for these, I might make another pair and just make them like a little bit shorter. But I think these are great. The pattern was very straightforward. Of course, again, it's petite knit, so easy to understand the pattern, easy to make. I think these took me about 2 weeks. They weren't the only thing I was working on. I think if I was exclusively working on these, I could have cranked them out in a few days. And these are knit with a sport weight yarn. I think the recommended yarn is like a cashmere. Of course, petite knit and her cashmere. But I think this yarn was a great option too. It's very warm and comfy. I don't know how well it'll hold up to like friction and stuff, but I don't know if cashmere holds up that well to friction, so anyway, but we'll have to see. I'm excited to get some use out of these. It's not quite cold enough yet, but in just a couple weeks, I'm sure it will be. Oh my God, I've been talking for so long, you guys. Oh, okay, let me show you my whips. I think I have less to say about these, I hope. Okay, whip number one, my longest standing whip. Actually, not my longest standing whip, but the whip that has given me the most difficulty is my Campanula tee. It looks an absolute mess right now because I have like, I have stitches on hold on like another set of circulars. Oh my God. Okay, but this is a little fitted t-shirt in irregular rib. This pattern is by Cupid Knits, I believe. And it's knit with a sport weight yarn on 2.5 millimeter needles, which is why it's taking me so long. I'm knitting it in this yarn that I got in Peru in summer 2024, I think. But this is from the Tejer es Cool brand, which is, it means knitting is cool. It's a brand by Mitchell, which is a big like alpaca fiber producer in Peru. And they also sell yarn through their Tejer es Cool brand for knitting and stuff like that. This is a blend of 70% alpaca and 30% silk, I believe. I don't remember. I think the yarn is called Vanessa, and I don't know the name of this color. I apologize. But if any of you find yourself in Peru, I really do recommend that you go to, they actually have standalone Tejer es Cool stores, and then they also sell this brand in some of the other like alpaca clothing stores, if that makes sense. Anyway, okay, this top, I started this, let me check my Ravelry. I started this on April 24th of this year. So, you know, and I've taken pretty extensive breaks from it just because I was just over it for a little bit. I do really love this design, and I think the finished object is going to be beautiful, but the 2.5 millimeter irregular rib is not easy on your hands. This, in terms of construction, is a saddle shoulder, a contiguous saddle shoulder. I think that's the correct term. So it has this little saddle, and then you do like raglan increases, but for the front and the sleeves, at different times. So you start by just increasing for the front, and then you keep the front the same width and increase just for the sleeves, and then you go back again and increase just for the front while keeping the sleeves the same. And then you join the round. So I finally separated the yoke, finally, like a week ago or something like that. And since then I have made a little bit of progress. Hopefully from this point on, it's a little bit more straightforward. I was having kind of a hard time keeping track of the increases. But it is very stretchy because of the irregular rib. I'm excited about that. I think it'll be really beautiful on. I am a little nervous about my quantity of yarn. I have this ball and then I have 2 more balls, and I'm technically like 200 meters short of what's recommended. So it might end up being kind of cropped, but that's fine. And this contrast at the top, this is not gonna stay. This is just the yarn I'm using to hold the provisional cast on, because there's a little ruffle at the neck that you do at the end. Anyway, so whip number 1, I like the pattern. It's a pretty straightforward pattern. I don't have any issues with it. It's just like by its nature kind of a complicated garment, if that makes sense. So it's not like the pattern could be written in a way that would make it any simpler. Like the garment itself is just complex, and that's fine. But it is something that I just have to do in little short bursts when I'm feeling motivated. This is another pretty long-standing whip. I believe I started this, let me check. Okay, I started this in February 2025. So this is an even longer standing whip than my Campanula tee, although I did kind of intentionally put it on hold over the summer because it was just too warm to be working on this. This is the Mosaic sweater. It's patterned by Knitting for Olive, and I'm knitting it in their recommended yarn, which is 2 strands of the Knitting for Olive merino held with 1 strand of mohair. This blue is blue jeans, and then the white is, I believe, cloud. I'm pretty sure. So this is another thing that like I was like really like lusting over this pattern for a long time, and I'm really excited to have the finished object, but the actual knitting process has been a little frustrating. There's nothing wrong with the pattern. Again, like the pattern is fine, like it's fine. It's all charted, the color work, so you know, obviously you need to be able to read a chart, but that's not an issue. It's knit bottom up also, which is not my favorite. And then there is a portion that I haven't gotten to yet, but there is a portion where you have to do the color work flat for the yoke, or you can steek, but I'm not doing that. I'll just knit the color work flat. I don't care. The main thing that I have had an issue with is, number one, I've had some issues with tensioning my floats. Because I knit continental, and when I knit colorwork, I knit holding both strands in my left hand. I just cannot, no matter how hard I try, knit English. So I would love to knit with 1 strand in each hand. I just can't do it. Like my body won't let me. I don't know what it is. So holding both strands continental is a little harder to appropriately tension colorwork. I do use this little tensioning ring, which helps mostly just to help my yarn not get so tangled, and you know, keep the color dominance correct and everything like that. And I have gotten better with my tension like as I've been working on this, but it does just take a lot more time and a lot more focus than other projects do. So you know, that's one of the reasons why I think I haven't made as much progress. Anyway, also the other annoying thing about this is if you knit this in the recommended yarn, you have 6 balls of yarn attached to your work at any given time, right? Because you have 3 of each color, and they're already, I just detangled these and they're already tangled again. So you have 3 balls of each color, which is not ideal. I can't take this with me anywhere. I have to be at home to work on this project because I can't take 6 balls of yarn with me places. It's just not practical. So there's that, but I do think that it's gonna make a really gorgeous finished object. I think it's gonna be perfect for the winter. It's a nice thick fabric, obviously, because you're holding, you know, all these strands together, and because it's color work, that makes the fabric even thicker. I really don't have that much else to say about it because I haven't gotten to a part of the pattern where there's actually much like pattern. You know what I mean? Like I've just been doing the color work in the round, no increases, no decreases, nothing. And that's just like, I can't evaluate the pattern based on that. Like it's a chart. A chart is a chart. There's no way to like write a chart badly. I mean, I guess there is, but like, you know, it's a pretty easy repeat to memorize. I will say that. I've been able to not look at the chart constantly, which is nice. It's very repetitive, as you can see. And it is, I think, a really gorgeous, gorgeous color work pattern. So I'm excited to have this and to wear it. I feel like I sound kind of defeatist, but I am excited, genuinely. And this is like the one thing that I have that I'm working on right now that isn't purple. So I'm trying to branch out, you guys. My last whip is purple. This is just a step-by-step cardigan by Handmade by Florence. It's the step-by-step sweater, but in cardigan form. I just got this yarn at the Joann going out of business sale, and I needed a pattern for it, and I wanted it to just be simple, basic, comfy cardigan. So that's what I chose. This is the K&C Cloud Paka, which is a blown yarn. It's similar to like Drops Air or something like that, but K&C was Joann's brand. So I don't know if you can get this anywhere anymore. I know that Michaels has started carrying some of Joann's old yarns, but I haven't been to Michaels in a hot minute, so I don't know if they have this there. It's in this gorgeous lavender. Purple is my favorite color, you guys. If you didn't believe me when I said that before, I know you do now. And it's just a raglan cardigan. I'm knitting this in the size C, I believe, because I didn't want the most positive ease. I really don't have much to say about this. Again, very standard raglan construction. It's designed for worsted weight, so if you have worsted weight yarn lying around and you're trying to figure out what you want to do with it, this is a great option. If you have a full sweater quantity of it. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Handmade by Florence, great, very straightforward patterns. You know, I think there's a video included for that pattern as well. I've actually never made the step-by-step sweater. My sister did because she just started knitting, but I've never made the step-by-step sweater, but I know it's a lot of people's first sweater. And I think it's nice sometimes, even if you are someone who can read and execute a more advanced pattern, to just use a pattern that's designed for beginners that really holds your hand throughout all of it. So it's been good. It's just like so straightforward. I don't have to do any thinking, really. I just do what the pattern tells me, which is always nice. Okay, in terms of acquisitions, I don't really have any because I haven't really bought any yarn super recently. I'm looking over my stash. What do I have? I literally have like nothing. So maybe this podcast, we don't have any acquisitions, and that's just how it is. I'm knitting from stash. I'm living my life. I'm gonna finish my whips. I'm gonna cast on. I think the next thing I'm gonna cast on is the Celeste mittens by Petite Knit, because I knit a Celeste sweater last year and I have some leftover yarn. I'm gonna make into a pair of mittens. And then I think I'm gonna cast on the Murray sweater by Kiss Kiss Rhinestones, which is just a basic set-in sleeve, super simple, classic construction. And I have a cone of Knit Picks palette for that, and I'm gonna hold it with some variegated mohair, which I don't feel like getting out right now. So the next time I make a knitting podcast, that will probably be a whip, and then y'all will see the yarn then. But I have this cone of palette, which is exciting. I've never knit from a cone. But this was like $50, and it's like a crazy amount of yardage. 2,310 yards, 500 grams, fingering weight. Highland wool? Yes, Peruvian Highland wool. So, love. I think it'll be great, and I will probably have a ton of leftover yarn, and then I will just have some nice basic white yarn that I can use for anything I want. Yeah, all right, that's the podcast, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I clearly am way less energetic now than I was at the beginning, because I've worn myself out. But hope you all enjoyed watching. Like and subscribe, comment, tell me what you were working on, because I know most people who are watching knitting podcasts are doing so while knitting. And if you weren't knitting while watching this, that's kind of crazy, not gonna lie. But if you weren't knitting while watching this, tell me what you were eating or drinking, or what you're currently working on, or how your Halloween was. My Halloween was great. I had a med school exam that day, so I got to finish my exam and have a completely free weekend with no studying, so that was really fun. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you, I don't know, soon, hopefully. All right, this is awkward. Bye.